this. This is like the dollar bill. Everybody's talking about the eye on the dollar bill. What we really need to do is figure this out. And an important key that provides us the access and the opportunity to figure this out and really understand what has gone on to black people, especially Ethiopians, how the fermentation of this leaven has really risen to its full proportion now when we see what's going on among Ethiopian society at home and abroad, is to turn to Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing and her book, The ISIS Papers. We highly, highly recommend to you The ISIS Papers, The Key to the Colors. You need to study that book and understand what is global white supremacy. What is GWS? You understand? How does GWS really work? You understand? How does it operate? What are the levels that global white supremacy operates on? And the global white supremacy is to say the Illuminati, the so-called Freemasons, others may call it the Luciferians, or some may call them the Satanists, but all of those are just different names for this global white supremacy or this mystery Babylon and the Gentile or the Goyim powers that have been oppressing the true Beit Israel and the Israelites. So we really need to understand this infiltration into the hearts and the minds of black peoples and the inferiority complex. You understand the inferiority complex that has been bred in modern day Ethiopians or black people at home and abroad through the artistic replacive strategy of the subtle infiltration of this going on for hundreds of years in Ethiopia through these cheap color pictures, cheap color photos have been circulated all through Ethiopia to people as, you know, goodwill items and gifts. It's almost like when they give out their circulars. We almost have to do like we should have done like the so-called Jehovah's Witness, where they give you these things, but they don't take nothing from you. So they minister to you, but you're not to minister to them. But what has happened in Ethiopia is that Jesuits and Jesuit agents, on behalf of the Pope, you understand, and Romanism, has subtly, and Romanism is the head of white supremacy, you have to understand that, to infiltrate into Ethiopia this white Virgo Mary. This is white Virgo Mary. Now, that's the picture that you have on the left. Now, on the right hand is the Ethiopian version of what you have on the left hand. So what was on the right hand is now the Ethiopian version. And there's so many things that are similar. Some things have been changed slightly. You can see how the Ethiopians have seemed to jack the image in a sense. You understand? And truly, the one on the right has a more Ethiopian flavor to it. But it's clear to see that, in other words, the one on the right seems as a reaction to the one on the left. But then when we now look at the original Ethiopic Mariam, or the oldest representation of Mary and child, we have to say, "Awo," or even "Wow." We have to just take a moment and look at this Dingal Mariam, the black maiden Mariam. You understand? The holy, to say black maiden Mariam. That's what makes her Qadis. You understand? She is Qadis because of that blackness. If you understand the black dye, if you understand melanin, that's why once again Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's book, The ISIS Papers. Because when you now go one step further in understanding this picture, and then go beyond the picture and say, well, this picture basically is modeled off of the mother and child from where? Where else do they have a mother and child? Where else in the world? Or where does it originate from? Then we return and we go back to Egypt. You know what I'm saying? I've called my son out of Egypt. He's called his son out of Egypt, but the mother came along with the son out of Egypt. You know what I'm saying? And we know that the Egyptians were what? Black peoples. Therefore, the oldest image of Qidist Dingel Mariam is the black maiden Mariam. But now the whitewashing of it, since the Council of Nicaea or Nicaea and the other Roman Catholic Church led and dominated ecumenical council. This is why even we know in history the Ethiopian church basically and the five Eastern churches, Eastern and Oriental as they are called, churches, they separated from the Roman Catholic Church and from the Western churches. Why? What did they see back in the 4th century that caused the Ethiopic church, the root and the foundation, the last really remaining of those African churches? And this is another level of the teaching and the lecture and the study that is very vital to understand, that all along that East African, you understand, the East African, before you cross the river of Egypt, before you cross the Nile River and you start to move more central into West Africa, when you're still in the East Africa, in that holy land that was defined to Abraham in Genesis, Orit Ze Fitret or Zelidet, Mi'raf Asara Mesa Kuterasara Cement, chapter 15, verse 18, from the river of Egypt to the river Euphrates. So in that area there were many, even in Arabia, there was ancient Christian churches, and each one of these churches were either destroyed by the Roman Catholic Church or by the Roman Catholic Church's chief allies, and that is the Arabo-Islamic fascists. You know what I'm saying? Yes, the Arabo-Islamic fascists are working along and together with the Romanish. We're not saying Muslims, you understand? We're saying Mohammedans, you know what I'm saying? We're saying Muslims, Musulman, Mohammedan, you know what I'm saying? Madmen, yes, there's a madman, not madman, but madmen, you know what I'm saying? Which refer to these same types, because Ishmael and Esau's children got together, you see? So when we talk about Esau as so-called Hebrew Israelites or Ethiopic Hebrews, and we recognize who is Esau, and you understand what does the prophecy of Esau concern, you know what I'm saying? And recognize that the Ishmaelites and the Edomites, they got together. So they are one people. You know what I'm saying? They are one people. So how is it hard to see that these Middle Eastern types basically are a combination of the Edomites, some Ishmaelite blood, as well as some clean leper type Canaanite blood? And this is going back to the Amaru and the Amorites, the Amorites, and the Amalekites, you understand? And the Amalekites. So it's very important to really understand this. But not to lose track of the subject matter that we're dealing with right here concerning this Jesuit Virgo Mary, you know what I'm saying, versus the true black maiden Mariam, you know what I'm saying, and the effect, or really the defect, that this has caused on many black women. This is the chief weapon that is used, you know what I'm saying, in this spiritual warfare, you know what I'm saying, that not just disempowers, but that has gone to create an inferiority among black women. What we see black women today are so-called being whiter than white women. You understand? Black woman today. You know, a couple of years ago, back in the late 80s and early 90s, it seemed as though there was some real black culture. People were becoming proud to be black again and getting more into the natural, you understand, proud of one's natural black African traits. But now we see these blonde wigs and all these other, I'm not just picking on blonde wigs, you know, but the good hair thing kind of tells you there's a certain sickness, there's a certain hatred of how the Almighty created us, because our religion and spirituality has gotten disorientated. You understand? And the major weapon in that disorientation, because you know what images do. You understand? No, you should know what images. If you don't study up on images and art. I mean, the basic place to look at it in media, mass marketing.